Hello everyone! I'm Abby, I work at Red Dog. I think I introduced myself to most of you and talked about some exciting stuff that we're looking forward to. But that's not why we're here. We're here to celebrate Rita and her wonderful achievement of the herbal dog. So we're very excited to have a lot of like-minded people here today. I'm calling us all the super nerds, so I'm excited to see all these fellow super nerds in the audience today. Right? Super nerds!
Perfect. Dog nerds.
Yes, dog
nerds.
Don't forget the cats.
Yes.
And cats. I have two lovely kitties.
Perfect. Okay, I'm gonna let Rita take it away. I know we'll answer questions at the end of her reading. So take it away, Rita.
Hello. So they have a microphone for me. Lady with cute little puppy on a leash. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So if you can't hear me, let me know. I'm kind of loud. So, but if you can't hear me, I'll put a microphone on. Okay. So I'd rather not because my body doesn't really. I mean, it'll fall off and do all that stuff. But I will do it for you. Okay. So I have a question for you, and if you're a person that doesn't raise their hand, do it anyways. Because this will help me figure out what I do want to talk about today. Because I was going to talk about something, and I may not. Okay, so raise your hand if you have a dog or a cat. Okay, good. Raise your hand if you've ever given your dog or cat antibiotics. Okay, do that again. Everybody, and don't lie. Raise them up. Anybody? Antibiotics? Okay. Okay, so we're going to do a little hybrid then. Because I want you to know a couple of things. Ina and I talked about that, and then I really want you to know about some other things. We're going to do a little hybrid talk today. So, to get this out of the way, my name's Rita Hogan. I am a clinical canine herbalist, and I've been doing this for over 20 years. And I have a full-time clinical practice. I see dogs in clinic all the time. Not this year because I'm on a 9-month book tour. This is event 19. Mm-hmm. And you are the 20th vet that I've had at my events. It's really important for me to have vets at my events because that's where I make a huge difference. In my goal is to help vets learn plant language because plants have language. So my book is in Canada, so I'm super excited about that. It really warms my heart. Chapters has picked it up?
And Indigo.
Oh, Indigo.
Yes. Chapters was changed to the name Indigo.
Okay, so Indigo has picked it up, which is really awesome. It's doing very well. It went to #1 in dog care and also in herbalism. So for me as an herbalist, it's just very humbling. It's like, oh my God. So, but this book will change your life. It really will. It's everything. It's an introductory book, but it's everything that people come to see me for. Like literally, they pay me hundreds of dollars for me to tell them how to fix their dog. But almost everything that I've seen an animal for, the answer's in the book. You can, and that's the biggest thing about plant medicine is we want to guard that for ourselves because it's the medicine that it's free. It's out in the world, and a lot of the plants that I deal with in my book are here in the PNW. They're in the Pacific Northwest. I could walk and hit probably 20 of them in 10 minutes. So they're here. You just have to learn how to pick them out, which my book does not help you with. But you can look them up, you can Google them, and you Google them with their Latin name. And I explain that in the book. But, so I'm going to explain a couple of things right off the bat so that we can, so that I can explain some more things. I'm going to do a little reading, but I want to explain energetics really quick. So, I'm just going to use this. Energetics is chapter 3, and it is the most important thing that you can know about your dog. And they agree. So it's one of the most important things that you can learn about your dog, because energetics is warm, cool, dry, damp, tense, relaxed. Don't worry about the dry, damp, or tense, relaxed right now, but if you can get warm and cool, it will change how you relate to your dog. And a store like this is an energetics delight, because there's so many single protein products here, and it makes it super easy to treat your dog as an individual. So we're going to do a crash course real quick on this. So think, so in the book, chapter 3 starts out with explaining flavor, but there is I have a little spectrum here. It's just a little spectrum, and this is a neutral position. This little guy, we're going to turn around with this. This is a neutral position, so I'm going to explain this little spectrum. So over here we have very hot, okay? And over here we have deep cold, okay? Very hot's over there, deep cold's over here. So most dogs that are healthy, zero problems, are right here. They're either warm or they're cool. And that's healthy, right? There's nothing wrong with it. You're born that way. All of us are born that way too. Every single one of you is either warm or cool, and you're somewhere on that spectrum, right? So food is on that spectrum too. Herbs are on that spectrum too. And plant language works on a system of opposites. So if you have a warm dog, you need to be, for the most part, consistency. Energetics is all about consistency. It's not about your one-offs, like this little treat right there. You know, you can give it to your dog, no problem. It's not going to affect their energetics. Maybe for a few minutes, whatever. You know, it's fine. But energetics is about those consistent things that you feed your dog day in and day out. And if you have a warm dog, you want to make sure that the foundation of what you're feeding is cooling. Okay, so if you have a warm dog and you feed a kangaroo food, that is going to put you on a slippery slope, and it's going to shove you going towards this area, which is very hot. We don't want that, because hot, slightly hot, hot, and very hot, that's disease. It's autoimmune disease, it's cancer, it's arthritis, it's all of those things, right? So we want to make sure that we're not inadvertently pushing our dog to a place where they don't need to be. I'm a warm person. I'll probably take this sweater off in no time, right? I am a warm person. I can't eat tons of spicy food. I can't partake in the turmeric latte all the time, or the ginger shot. That would put me in the hospital, where a person that is more on the cool side could possibly do a ginger shot with no problem. Oh yeah, it was really warming for a little while, right? And so it's really important to know like what energetics certain foods are. Like lamb is warming, pork is cooling, kangaroo is hot, goat is warming, and a lot of our proteins are warming. Rabbit is neutral to cooling, duck is cooling, venison is warming, beef is cooling, and pork is cold. And it depends on how it's raised. And this store has good sourcing. So salmon is hot, and how that plays out is, say for instance we had goat tripe, and we were doing this one right here. You had a warm dog, and you decided to come into True Carnivores, and decided, well, I'm going to just feed this food, and I'm going to give these treats, and I am going to go over here. Where did it go? Okay. And I'm going to give greenlet muscle to support their mobility, because greenlet muscle is awesome. And then everyone likes goat milk. They talk about it all the time. And we're going to do goat milk, okay? All of this is warming, all of it. And you paid a lot of money for it, right? It's got to be good. It's expensive. But it's inappropriate for your warm dog. Okay? So, if your dog is nice and healthy on the spectrum, no problems or whatever, they're going to be energetically more flexible. So, you can work this in every now and then for variety, but it's not going to be a main protein. It's not going to be something you're giving your dog all the time. You're going to switch this goat's milk to cow's milk. Now, dairy in general is warming. I mean, think of what dairy does. It grows a little baby into a big baby, right? But one of the things it does is it keeps that baby warm. It's very important to keep children warm and their bodies warm while they're growing. So dairy in general is warming, but goat's milk is much more warming on that spectrum than cow's milk. So if you wanted to give a little dairy, you'd give raw cow's milk, not raw goat's milk, to a warm dog. Now, if you fed this once a week for some variety in a dog that had no problems, it's fine. Just don't do it consistently, right? And we know, as humans, we tend to do a lot of things consistently because it works. Like, oh, my dog's doing great on this. I'm just going to feed it to him for the next 5 years because it works, right? So if you do that, it needs to be energetically appropriate. So if you, hold on, I gotta be tidy. So, if you have a cool dog, right? Oh, we can just reuse this. If we have a cool dog, giving goat's milk, this says
Kangaroo and lamb.
right in front. Kangaroo, lamb, and herring. So herring's cooling, but lamb and kangaroo are going to totally outweigh the herring because they're hot. Okay, so this is a nice warming food to give to our dogs, and we're going to support their mobility with green lip mussel. And then we might add some reishi mushroom or some ashwagandha. Those are both warming. And that's actually a pretty good thing. So then we could add some pork liver and pork heart and where's that rabbit? Give me some beef, try. The store is amazing. Sorry. Okay. So we could add these guys intermittently, right? But not consistently. When a dog is healthy, it's good to rotate. Like I rotate seasonally. Using the seasons as a guide to, that's another book, but using the seasons as a guide to tell you what to do is awesome. But we can feed these intermittently, but if we feed them every day, like think about treats. If you feed the same treat every day, that's like, if it's just one treat, that's 365, exactly, 365 treats a year. And if you do 2 to 4 treats a day, that's a lot of treats if you put it in a bucket, right? It affects your dog. So in a healthy dog, these can be fed intermittently. But what happens is if you don't have a healthy dog, right, they're going to be more and more susceptible to be sensitive to those energetically inappropriate ingredients, right? So if you can just get the hot and the cool, or the warm and the cool, you can come into a store like this and know exactly what's going to work for your dog and what's not going to work for your dog in the warm and cool. Then we have the dry and the damp. Okay, how many people have had a dog with a lipoma? That's a fatty tumor that you can reach your hand around. 2? Oh, look, we're coming out of the closet here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so fatty lipomas. Oh, how many people have had a dog with a wart? Skin growth. Hot spot. Yeast infection. Okay, so all of those conditions are what it's called damp. Okay, they're damp, right? And if you know the energetics, and my book tells you what the energetics are, all those conditions, right? If you know the energetics, you can really start making strides in getting rid of all that, because those are all just symptoms of poor organ health. That's all those are. And my book is really about teaching you that, you know, you're like, well, my dog has yeast, or my dog has a musculoskeletal condition, my dog has arthritis. My dog has autoimmune disease. My dog has Cushing's. My dog has Addison's. My dog has seizures, right? All of these things that we see as a thing to make it go away, right? They are symptoms.
Sorry.
I love that cat. But they're symptoms. They're not actually, they're nothing but symptoms of poor organ health. And so my book, in the chapter Everything's Connected, it deals with teaching you holistically the view of the nervous system. And I have lots of lists that tell you what are the symptoms. How do I figure out if my dog's nervous system needs help? And I'll tell you right now they do, hands down. The lymphatic system. How do I tell that? It's in there, and I guarantee you, your dog needs lymphatic health. And I'm going to go over the lymphatic system. So, does my dog need liver health? I guarantee it, they do. All of these problems that we deal with our dogs are just organ issues. That's it. That's everything. It's the bottom line. So, as they get sicker and sicker, they get more sensitive to these ingredients. And so, for instance, here's our pork liver. Oh, here it comes. It's coming off. Okay, so pork liver, okay? Pork liver is going to make yeast worse. Pork liver, this is going to make yeast worse. This is going to make a lipoma bigger. This is dampening. Okay, so if you have a dry dog, which the book will teach you, chapter 3, this will help. This will help with dryness. Now, having an occasional little piece of pork liver a couple times a week, no, it's not going to make things worse. But using this as a training treat, day in and day out, going to have a problem. So I shared this yesterday. I have a Basset Hound. Her name is Lola, and she's 15, and she has a lot of lipomas. She's Heather's lovely dog, and you know, we went on the first leg of our trip to California for the book signings and stuff, and we came home, and Lola's lipomas were bigger. And I thought, dude, my brother, I'm like, what did you do to Lola? Like, I didn't do anything. And I'm like, well, what did you feed her while we were gone? Because she's in that years where she likes something, like, I guess we just heard that she's on her raw chicken stint again, which is great. But maybe by Thursday, she won't be on it anymore. So we try to give her what she'll eat. But my brother doesn't know anything about energetics, and what does he do? He goes out and feeds her pork for 6 weeks. And all of her lipomas got worse. All of them. You know, and at this point where she's 15 and having mobility issues because of where her lipomas are, it's not a good option for them to get bigger. So I scolded him, and nicely, but I was like, you cannot give her pork anymore. So if you can learn from the book, will teach you like what is damp, what is dry. Like goat is dry. So like goat is drying, and it will teach you how to know like what you should do with the condition that your dog has. And I teach you how to get rid of yeast. If you have a dog with yeast, you won't have a dog with yeast. Okay? There's lots of things that you can do for yeast. I have a whole yeast protocol in the book. It works every single time. The issue with yeast is people don't give their dogs a long enough time to get over it. What they happens is it's, oh, the yeast is gone. And then they start feeding carbs. And literally you need a good 2 to 6 months of none of that stuff to let the gut reset. It's a long story, but I do talk about it in the book. So energetics is super important to understand because it gives you a guide map in how to treat your dog as an individual. So if your dog, like say for instance your dog is cold, like if your dog is cold, they're going to have some major issues. And if your dog is over here and they're cold, and I have lists in there, this is how to tell if your dog is cold. If your dog is this, this, and this, they're most likely slightly cold to cold or deep cold. But like I had a dog that had what's called false heat. It's not my dog, it was a client's dog. And it was a little Frenchie, and on her belly, she was missing hair. Okay? And if you touched her, she was burning hot. Like, really hot, right? And her skin was all red. And her mom was very, very frustrated. Like, I don't know what to do. I'm feeding her, I'm doing everything right. I'm feeding her cooling proteins. I'm feeding her cooling herbs, Chinese herbs. And I'm doing this, that, and the other. And nothing, she's getting worse. Well, the reason why is because she was so cold that when you're super deep cold, your body can build its own heat. And what it does is it sends it out to the periphery, the skin. And your skin can get super hot, right? So logically you think, oh, I have to feed cooling proteins and cooling herbs. But the goal of any regimen is that if it's not working in 12 weeks, either the dosage is wrong or it's the wrong herbs, okay? Because if it's the right herbs, they'll start working. And so I saw the dog and I'm like, listen, I think this dog is cold. I'm like, look at how hot it is. I'm like, yeah, I know, but you're doing all the right things. If she was warm, it should be working. Her hair should be coming back. She should not be this hot, right? And so we gave her calendula, which is one of my favorite warming the core herbs. We gave her ginger infusions. We changed her diet. Goat, lamb, venison, right? She warmed her up 2 weeks. It took 2 weeks. Hair started growing back. Heat on the skin disappeared. She started doing awesome. But she was in deep cold. And when dogs are in deep cold, the next stop on the train is death. And we don't want that, right? I mean, the dogs, well, these guys right here, their vital force, which is what's animating right now, you can call it the spirit, soul, whatever you want to do, and chi, sometimes chi, but their vital force starts to go out. It starts to dwindle and get tiny and tiny and tiny and tiny. She was very lethargic, didn't want to do anything, didn't want to walk very much, nothing. She was giving up. But she was so hot, so cold, right? And it's like hypothermia. You know, one of the best ways to go out. You just fall asleep and never wake up again. We don't want that for our dogs. And these guys over here, these guys burn themselves out. They get so hot that they burn everything up. And their little vital force just, it explodes and they're done. And so the goal is to cool these guys down and heat these guys up. Okay? So, and just know that, like, this is a spectrum. And so when, like, the game is when we work with ourselves, and this applies to you, we're constantly doing this. We're just kind of getting it back. Like, you go on a weekend binger, right? You go party with the girls or the boys, and your liver takes a hit. For 2 days, you feel like absolute crap, right? You're going to the juice store, and you're down in the greens, and you're trying to get your vitality back, right? You're trying to get your liver healthier again, because your liver takes a hit when you do that. And it's the same thing. You're just constantly doing this. But inadvertently, we can use the wrong proteins and the wrong treats and the wrong herbs, and things start to go that way. But if our dogs are sick, right? If they have chronic disease already, and you start feeding them energetically inappropriate supplements and food, inadvertently, you're going to make them much worse. And that's why, the natural world works on its own system. And if you look at the natural world, it'll tell you exactly what you should do. And the natural world works on a system of opposites. So, that's chapter 3 in a nutshell. And then the chapter 3 deals with dampness and dryness, and it also deals with tension and relaxation. And what I can tell you is most dogs are tense. So, a lot of tension. We're a bunch of tense human beings right now, and a lot of dogs are tense. There are some relaxation. You may find your dog in there, but for the most part, a lot of them there are too tense. And it's really important to understand tension. Like right now, in the season that we're in spring, right? You get a ton of CCL tears because dogs are so tense. This is when your dog will have a CT. Most likely, if they're going to have one this year, they're going to have it now. They're going to have it in the next couple months. So tension is really important to understand. And I explain it, I'm a very good teacher, and I explain it very simply in chapter 3. Is that good on the energetics? Right? Sure. Ina wanted me to explain that. But having a store like this is like an energetics dream, because there's so many single proteins in here. Because sometimes when you're dealing with disease and when you're trying to help your dog, sometimes it's hard to find products that don't have other things in them, like turmeric, right? I bet I could find a bone broth in here. If there's a bone broth in here, most likely it has turmeric in it. You know, and every time I see it, I just go, unless it's like goat milk bone broth or lamb bone broth. Turmeric and ginger are fine in there because those are very warming. But when I see like a nice beef bone broth with turmeric in it, I cringe. It's like, you know, this dog can use it, sure. Not all the time, but it can use that. But if it's this dog or this dog, they might be sensitive to the turmeric because turmeric is very warming. So, and a lot of people that are doing formulation don't know anything about energetics. And I will tell you, a lot of the commercial products that are blended are warming. There's very few cooling formulas. My favorite is beef and salmon. Oh. You know, I'm like, oh, beef and salmon. You know, because I love the product, I love the company, but I can't recommend it to a lot of the dogs I work with because I really want it to be just beef or just salmon, right? Or I want it to be like a beef and cod recipe. Cooling, right? We love beef and cod recipes. So, but you have to adhere to certain formulary guidelines, like that are guiding how we have to formulate our food, and it has to meet certain requirements. And some of those requirements, like some of those proteins, don't meet that requirements. At least that's what I understand it to be. So, but a store like this is just awesome because of the fact that you can just, you know, get these single proteins if your dog is sick. And once you get them better, they'll have much more energetic flexibility. They'll be able to have some of those combinations and do just fine with them as long as you don't feed it consistently. So what that looks like is if you have a dog over here that's eating like cod and beef and rabbit, like as their main proteins, then you can work in some turkey and some chicken and maybe some goat every now and then for variety. And that's how that looks on both sides. Does anyone have any questions about that before I talk about something else? Anybody? Yeah.
With my dog, doesn't have any disease or chronic disease, but she's always very hyper. I see some product in the market, like it's a calming supplement.
Yeah.
Or is there diet that's like calming diet too? Like,
well,
does that cover?
I would figure out if she's warm or cool, and that the way that you do that, I talk about that in chapter 3. You should really just look at how she does with heat. Like, you know, dogs who are warm, they don't like heat very much. They'll be out in the sun and they'll be like, oh my god, I love the sun. Okay, I'm done. Right? You know, 10 minutes. Okay, I'm finished. I'm gonna sit by the sun. I might put a paw out there, but I'm gonna retract it when it gets hot. Right? Depending on where they are on the spectrum. Like these guys are very intolerant of the sun. These guys love the nice warmth of the sun, but just not long. Right? I love the sun. But then I have conversations up here going, yeah, I'm hot, I'm getting hot, right? So I'm gonna go get in the shade a little bit. And they don't, like these guys love to be covered up, especially if they're over here. Love to be covered up, right? Like I have a cool dog, her name's Vicky Nubbins, and she's cool, but she's not as cool as her brother. her brother's over here, she's about over here. She'll go under the covers for maybe an hour, and then she comes out. And then she'll lay up here, and then she'll go back under. You know, in and out, in and out. But like, cool dogs like to lay on cool floors. They're not going to be laying on the carpet so much, or you'll buy them that $300 orthopedic bed, right? Foam is hot. So they might lay on that bed for a little bit, but they're like, no, I'm not laying on that too much because it's making me too hot. But a cool dog or a cold dog will like bake themselves in front of the fire until you practically have to remove them. And so you just kind of look to see how they feel with temperature. You know, warm and cool. Like the cool areas and like if you find a dog that's laying on your tile floor in the bathroom all the time, they're most likely warm. So dogs who are warm tend to do better with herbs like things that you might know. Chamomile, it's cooling. Skullcap, passion flower, because they're super hyper. They're super hyper. Like, hey, what's going on? What are you doing? What's going on? I want to move for what? Let's do it. Hey, you just got home, but I don't care. Let's do it. Let's do it. Right? They're excited. They want to go. You know, I'm a warm person. I've got lots of energy. Right? I'm the Energizer Bunny. People are like, how do you keep this up for this book tour? I'm like, I'm an Aries. I can move. I can keep this up. I'm happy. You know, like that. But cool dogs don't do that well with those types of herbs chronically. Acutely, it might help your cool dog if they're going to the vet to give them a high level of like passion flower or chamomile together, and it might calm them down for a short period of time. But if you give it to them every day, it's most likely not going to work out. But these guys like things that are called like adaptogens. Like a lot of people know ashwagandha. They've heard of ashwagandha. Like ashwagandha is a great herb. It's an anti-cancer herb. It's awesome, but it's warming. It's not super warming. On the spectrum, it's probably like right here. But like, it's great for those cool dogs because of that little vital force that dwindles out, they worry. They're worriers. They're worried. They take on our stress much more. They have a hard time dealing with stress. They can be like super noise sensitive. They need the adaptogens. They need things to help them deal with stress better. Where these guys are creating their own stress, right? They're like, ah! So if you know the energetics of the herbs, which are all in my book, like if you know the energetics of the herbs and you know your dogs just as they're warm and cool, you can pick out herbs that sedate the nervous system or herbs that support stress. And you're like, well, I have a cool dog, has hardly any problems, but gets a little stressed. You know, my first go-tos would be ashwagandha and reishi mushroom. Those two work so well together. And they work really well to help dogs feel better. So I would feed an energetically appropriate diet, but I'd also look at the herbs that would be good for your individual dog. Okay? Someone else had a question. Anything?
So when you're looking at diets that are blends, do you look at like a percentage? Like how do you pick, like for example, there's a chicken and beef mix, right? So beef is cooling, chicken is warming.
Yeah.
So if there's a 50-50 ratio of that, what does that mean? How do you...
So if I was looking at that diet, I'd look at my dog, right? So, like, if this was just chicken and beef, right? I don't know how much chicken there is, compared to beef. But like this one, the kangaroo lamb and herring, okay? The herring is cooling, but the lamb and kangaroo's hot, and so is lamb. So this is a very warming formula, so it'd be great for a dog over here. The herring's not going to be a problem, you know. And it's is it herring meat or is it herring oil? Meat. Okay. So it's not going to be a problem because this is leaning very warm. Okay. So you can look at there's a couple of things up there. There's different levels of different types. There's warming and cooling in it. There might be 3 and 3. That's going to be pretty balanced. it just depends on how sick your dog is and how sensitive they are. You'll know if it's not working. Because in the planning herbal protocol section of my book, it tells you what to look for. Like, Rita, how do I know if an herb isn't working? It's in there. How do I know when to stop an herb? How do I know when to start an herb? How do I know how many herbs I can give my dog? How much of an herb do I give it to him? Like, how much powder do I use? How much tincture do I use? Can I use a tincture? Do I use something with glycerin? I don't know what to do. All those questions are answered because that's what books are lacking. You know, it's really great to know oh yeah, ashwagandha and reishi mushroom is great, right? And then you go home going, well, it's great and all, but I don't know what to do, so I'm just not going to do it. You know, I don't know what form do I give it. I have no idea. How many times a day? And how do I know if it's working? And how do I know if it's not working? So all of those are answered in the book. Because the book's no good unless you actually know how to source the herbs, which I have that on the website, and how to use the herbs, and how not to harm your dog. So I don't really have hardly any, there's a couple herbs in here that are a little tweaky, but most, 99% of all the herbs in there are completely non-toxic. You'd have to give your dog more herbs than you could carry to hurt them with the herbs that I choose. And like I said, my favorite herbs are herbs that are found right here in the PNW. So, any other questions about energetics? No? Are you sure? Okay. Yeah, you have a question?
So wouldn't it also matter that if you have a puppy versus a senior, that the heat, the dampness, and all that? I mean, seniors are, wouldn't they be more, like the reaction would be more coolish versus?
Yeah. So that's a great question, and it's kind of what I'm going to talk about in a minute here.
Sorry.
No, I love it. It's a great question, and to keep it in mind. So, I want to talk about what we do to our dogs that we forget. Okay, it's my thing for the last couple months. Like, and what we do to them right off the bat changes their energetics. Now, you don't normally get a dog that's warm that goes cold. They can get cold, but it's not permanent at all. You're either warm or cool, and you go this way, right? Surgery, you're going to go towards hot or cold, depending on what kind of dog you are. But, are you stretching? Oh, I thought you were giving me this sign. But like a splenectomy, taking an organ out can definitely change the energetics to cool or cold, because you're removing organs. You know, blood transfusions can also change energetics temporarily, because once you get a blood transfusion, you actually don't even have your own DNA for a while. So, blood transfusions are tricky, but usually their energetics go back. But the thing that one of the first things that we do to our dogs is we spay and neuter, right? Spay and neuter alters your dogs considerably. And so if you have a healthy dog right here, let's just take a puppy, okay? A puppy that's bred, okay? Unfortunately, I don't know how it is in Canada, so I can't speak to that. But in America, breeders will vaccinate a puppy while they're still under the immunity of their mom, okay? That brings that puppy from born healthy, right? Then you spay and neuter. You get a puppy that's not in this healthy zone, or that can't be in the healthy zone. Usually things don't come out of the woodwork until your dog is 3 or 4. But now, because we do so many things to them before they're even 1 year of age, right? Now we have puppies coming down with cancer. 1 in 2 dogs will die of cancer, which, you know, if I say it too often, I'll just start bawling. So, like, 1 in 2 dogs will die of cancer. I'm a cancer survivor, so it's kind of close to my heart. And it's the things that we forget that we do to our dogs that are causing the cancer. So there is the environmental component. Sure, absolutely, we're living in a pretty poorly environmental situation right now. But the first thing we do is we over-vaccinate our dogs. I don't know how it is in Canada. You guys vaccinate every year?
Every 3 years.
Okay, So we over-vaccinate our dogs, and then we spay and neuter them sometimes under 6 months, and sometimes under a year. It takes your hormones takes years for them to develop. It takes years for like big dogs. We want to close their growth plates in their bones, right? They get a lot of osteosarcoma. And it's because we spay and neuter them so early. In fact, it brings up like a male dog who gets neutered under the age of 1. They did a study, and I think it's like, it ups their chances of osteosarcoma, I think between 40 and 60%. Don't quote me on the percentage, but it made my eyes go like this. Like, oh my God, wait to spay and neuter your dogs. If you have to spay and neuter them, wait. Wait 2, 3, 4 years. And if you have to spay and neuter them early, or you get a rescue dog that's been spayed and neutered, you have to support their hormones and their endocrine system and their nervous system. Because we just ripped out like 25% of their endocrine system. That's a big deal, but it's so commonplace that we have forgotten that we've done it. Like, I just can't understand why my dog got cancer when they were 6. We forget. Well, we spayed them. And then you gave them the flea and tick meds. Then you gave them heartworm meds. And you gave them the flea and ticks like every 40 days. You gave them the heartworm meds. Then they got 2 rounds of antibiotics. And they got vaccinated every year. And then we're over here going, I just don't understand why my dog got sick. Right? Because all of these things that I just went through are commonplace. We've been conditioned that this is okay, and we love dogs so much. Every time I see a dog, I'm like, squirrel, squirrel, squirrel. Oh my God, look! Oh I almost stole someone's Dachshund this morning. I almost ran with it. It was running so cute. I was like, oh my God, I gotta touch it. We love our animals. We love our cats. We love our dogs. But in the last, I would say, 30 years, we have developed these systems that are convenient for us, but we're doing huge damage to our animals. And then we're wondering why 1 in 2 dogs are dying of cancer. So, if we're going to do these things to our animals, we have to learn how to support them. We have to learn how to support spay and neuter. Unfortunately, I did not include that in my book, and I regret it. I do. I regret it. But I'll put out a course and put all the stuff that you can do to do that. But what you do is you support the endocrine system with glandulars. There's a plethora of glandulars in this store, correct, David? Yes. So, yes, lots of glandulars in the store. But you would give your male dog the testes of the animals here, and you give your female dog do you sell those types of parts for female dogs?
You can What about the ovarian spay? I had to spay.
Ovarian sparing spay.
Yes.
Much better.
Okay.
Right? And a vasectomy for males.
Okay.
If you're going to do that, request it. Find a vet. The thing is, who cares if you have to drive 4 hours? You're only doing it one time, right? And then you don't have to do so much support. But you can get glandulars that help with female. There's female glandulars and there's male glandulars.
What would be a good female glandular?
Ovary.
Ovary.
Yeah. Over the parts. So yeah, and then we support their adrenal glands, and I definitely recommend supporting their nervous system, because that nervous system woke up on Thursday, everything's great, right? It's functioning, everything's connected in your dog's body. I talk about that in nauseam in my book. Like, everything's connected, and on Thursday morning we're all doing great, but Thursday night your dog's nervous system is going, wait a minute, I can't get there. Like, something is missing, right? And we take our dogs home from the vet and we're worried about their incision, right? All the focus is that God don't get it infected. Is the incision okay? Is the incision okay? But what we should be worried about is their nervous system and their adrenal glands and their liver and their thyroid. Hypothyroid is an epidemic in North America. Epidemic. So many dogs have hypothyroid, and so many cats have hyperthyroid. Right? And so, hypothyroid is a damp condition. So if you have hypothyroid, your dog has hypothyroid, you're damp. So you don't even have to look at that part after 3. But like it's a damp condition. But it's also an endocrine problem. The thyroid is part of the endocrine system. And usually if you have a thyroid problem, the adrenals are going to need a little love and support. So a lot of times you'll see adrenal in some of these blends for hormones. And so when they get spayed and neutered, you support those hormones hardcore for about 6 months. And then you can drop down to 1 week a month. 1 week a month, you give them their glandular, or you give them their herbs. There's lots of herbs that support good, healthy hormones. And I do go over some of those in my book. But there's lots of herbs that can do it, but it's for 1 week every month. For the rest of their lives. So, ladies, if you've had a hysterectomy, or you ever get one, you need to support your hormones for the rest of your life. It's very, very important because it's so much a part. It affects your liver. It affects how your organs function. So that's number 1, a spay neuter. Number 2, flea and tick meds. Right? I have a course on fleas on my website. It's like $50, and it's awesome. I don't cover fleas in my book. I don't cover ticks because it's an entire book as far as I'm concerned. But fleas and ticks, right? We don't have a lot of ticks here, so I really don't have to talk about that. But fleas, we do have fleas, and I get that every now and then fleas get so much that you have to use something, right? But get this. Those flea medications are poison. And if I gave you that poison in a little shot glass, and I said, drink it, how many people here would drink it? So what makes your dog any different? And we forget about this because they're so commonplace. I wouldn't drink it. There's no way I would drink it. I don't care. I'd go sit in the river. I wouldn't do it. But literally, if I took the poison out of the treat and put it in a shot glass and said, here you go, you have it. Humans and dogs eat a lot of the same things. Go ahead and drink it every month. What do you think would happen to you? Right? You might get cancer. And so, if you're going to give poison to your dog, all right, you have to support the nervous system and you have to support the liver. And I do have that in the book. Okay, if your dog, and everyone's had a flea infestation. Well, maybe not everyone, but I have. My dog lost like 80% of his fur from a flea allergy. And there's a way to, flea allergy is just liver health. Okay, I didn't know that at the time. But the thing is that it's poison, and you have to get that through your head. So if you're going to give your dog poison, what do you have to do? You have to help their liver deal with that poison in their body. You know, our organs are amazing in that. We give ourselves poison every day. I drank some yesterday at a bar. Okay? It was in the form of something I've never heard about. It's a Bellini. Right? And I don't even drink. But I decided to have this frozen Bellini, and it was amazing. I like stuck my straw in and just ate little bits of it. But it's still poison. Okay? Hardcore alcohol. It was hardcore. I had a buzz. And I don't ever get a buzz. And I had a buzz. It's true. But the buzz means that you're poisoning yourself in a little bit of amount, right? So you have to support your liver when you're doing that. I have some friends that drink too much. That's their business. But I tell them, you need to take milk thistle every single day to support your liver. And they have signs of liver weakness on their face, right? Humans show sign of it on on their face. So the thing is that if we're going to give these poisons to our dog, and if we have to, you've got to support the nervous system because all of them are nervous system toxins. And everyone's so concerned about the avian flu, okay? The avian flu, the avian flu, the avian flu, the avian flu. Flea and tick meds kill more dogs than avian flu ever will. No one's talking about it. No one says anything. Oh, well, the vet is giving it, so it must be good, right? So, liver, kidney, nervous system, and lymphatic support has to be given if you're going to give those meds. And if you have to do it, there's some that are better than others, right? I go over that in my flea and tick course, or my flea course. Tick course is coming, but flea course. But some are better than others. But you have to know what to use to help your dog not have seizures for the rest of its life. One dose. I gave my dog Seamus Comfortus and watched him have a seizure and be unable to walk for 3 months. I had to detox him for 3 months until he walked normal again. And it was awful. I mean, I bawled and, I regretted it so much. But we had a flea infestation. And at that time, I didn't know what I know now. And I could only use the information that I had at that time, right? So, flea and tick meds are one thing. The second thing that we just forget that we do to our dogs, and we act like it's normal, and we just forget about it, right? Heartworm meds. We're in the P&W. You don't need heartworm meds. You don't need them. The vector here for heartworm is, okay? And if your dogs were to get heartworm, there's a company called Amber Technologies. They have a product called HWF. Give your dog that product. It will get rid of the heartworm. But I'd be willing to put $1 million per person in this room that your dog will never get heartworm in the P&W. So it could happen. I don't think it's gonna. So we don't have to talk about that. But it's another thing that we do to our dogs that we forget. Oh, we give them Trifexis. Horrible drug. Ivermectin, it's not that bad, right? Ivermectin's the least of my problems in the pharmaceutical world. But Trifexis is a different story. You're killing all the worms every single month, right? And your dog do not worm your dog unless your dog has worms. Do not worm them. Because it's killing other things in the gut, and your gut is 80% of the immune system that your dog has and that you have. Okay? So there's that. And then there's the big kahuna. And for me, it's worse than the flea and tick meds. It's antibiotics. Okay? Antibiotics, in my opinion, you should not give your dog antibiotics unless they're dying. Okay? This lovely veterinarian says to you, your dog has to have these antibiotics or they're going to die. Recently had a lovely client with a mobility impaired little dog who had an infection in their lungs. Okay? That's an antibiotic moment. I'm not going to give them herbs. Okay? He can barely breathe in the first place. So we had to use antibiotics. But we couldn't go the next day and act like we never gave him antibiotics and just hope that he's going to do okay. Because he's not. And he's older, which is even worse. But if you have to do the antibiotics, you have to do the antibiotics. But don't do the antibiotics because your vet found bacteria on their paw. Yeah.
Oh, I have a question on antibiotics.
Yeah.
Because I have an incontinent rescue dog.
Yeah.
And so he, in the past 6 months, he's got 3 severe UTIs.
So antibiotics are not going to get rid of that UTI.
So what we did was that it was antibiotics.
Yeah.
And then we did urine culture. So for the 3 times that he had antibiotic, which caused like blood and urine, so we did 3 rounds of antibiotics, and then we found bladder stone. And so after
Bladder stone?
Bladder stone.
Okay.
And then after he just finished his surgery, and it's been a week mark. He obviously got a round of antibiotics.
Yeah. So that's 4?
So 4 in 7 months.
7 weeks?
7 months.
7 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. So maybe
Yeah.
I'll need some help.
Absolutely. So, okay, so one thing. Here's the thing. Your dog has a little bit of blood in their urine.
Mhm.
So what?
Mhm.
I'm serious. Like it has trace amounts of blood. It has an infection, right? But it's not shutting down their ability to pee.
Oh, it did.
Okay, that's a different story.
Yeah, it did.
So there's no peeing at all.
It clogged his urethra.
Okay, that's different.
Okay.
Okay, so that first round of antibiotics,
Yeah.
you're gonna need.
Yeah.
Okay, but the problem is that first round of antibiotics, right, is going to unclog it, which is so important, very, very important, right? And those, remember what I said? If the dog is going to die,
Mhm.
okay, do the antibiotics.
Yeah.
But after that's over, the next one and the next one, right, the antibiotics aren't going to do anything. Because what happens is they do unclog the urethra, but then they make everything worse. So if your dog has bladder stones, they're either over here or they're over here.
Yeah.
Okay? They're nowhere in between. So what I would do is I would start giving an energetically appropriate diet, and I would follow the antibiotic recovery protocol in this book. It will help your dog recover from that antibiotic damage. Because we give our dogs, and there's also an incontinence and
Yes.
urinary tract infection section.
Yeah.
Okay? But remember, the urinary tract infections are a symptom.
Yes.
Okay? And it's because your dog is either too hot or too cold.
Mhm.
Right? Most likely your dog's probably over here, but I don't know your dog.
Yeah.
So, the important part is to get a regimen, right? You'll want to start on the urinary tract information right away,
Yeah.
so that that infection does not come back and
Yeah.
clog,
Mhm.
right? So, like with blood in the urine, if they're not clogged, they're blocked out. We had a cat that got blocked; it was awful. But like, if they're not blocked up, a little blood can be taken care of with herbs.
Mhm.
Even if you're, I suggest you go to the vet and have them look at it,
Mhm.
but then do something about it yourself before you do the antibiotics. Okay, the worst case scenario is you have to do the antibiotics,
Yeah.
right? But try first,
Mhm.
and then you can retest to see if there's blood present. Most of the time, the blood goes away. But the issue is a lot of people will treat a urinary tract infection, and then they'll act like that's the problem, right? That's the problem. I have an example of that in my book. Like, that's the problem, and it's not the problem, it's a symptom. Okay, so your dog's entire renal system needs help. Most likely their gut and their liver too,
Mhm.
and their lymphatic system. Because the stones are a product of a poor lymphatic system. Who knows what the lymphatic system does? Anybody? Besides you?
Drain the
It
detox.
detoxes the blood.
Yes, in a way,
Detoxes
yeah.
the blood.
Anyone know what the superpower is? Okay, it's the same thing at every vet, so we're okay. So the lymphatic system is a fat soluble superhighway in your body, and if it stopped working, you'd be dead in 5 minutes. Okay, so it cleans the blood, but it cleans the interstitial fluid. That's all the fluid between your trillions of cells. Okay, our bodies get really dirty just by functioning. They get dirty. That's called metabolic waste, right? And our liver and our lymphatics take care of that in a lovely little thing called the portal vein, right? So the portal vein is a superhighway of water-soluble wastes and water-soluble vitamins and minerals, right? It feeds the cells. The lymphatic system is a superhighway of fat-soluble vitamins and fat-soluble toxins. And unfortunately, a lot of our toxins that we're dealing with right now in the world are fat-soluble. So almost every person in this room and every dog that I've ever met has low lymphatic function. Because we live a sedentary lifestyle. We don't work for a living anymore. We sit on our computers. I'm totally guilty of this. I'm working on lymphatic health right now. Get one of those little vibration plates. Right? Those things really help. They actually really do. I saw a woman with a dog They were both vibrating. And I was like, yes. But the thing that, like, 1 in 2 dogs will die of cancer. And what the lymphatic system does is it transports vitamin D. Okay, and we're in the P&W. Probably all of us in this room, except for me, because I know my levels and I've worked really hard at it, are low in vitamin D. It's the best thing you can do for yourself. Test your vitamin D levels once a year. And if you're going to supplement vitamin D for your dog, test them first. Okay, because that can get out of whack really quickly, especially if you're doing certain types of vitamin D that are super absorbable in the wrong way. So you want to test your dog first, but you want to know. And if your levels, if the lab says your levels are fine and they're like 35%, it's a lie, and it's a lie for your dog. They need to be between 70 and 100%. Because vitamin D is one of the best ways to keep you from getting cancer. When I had cancer, my vitamin D levels were 18%. 18. I was like, how? You know, I moved from Tennessee. I sweat there. The sun was so hot. I'm like, how could I have such low vitamin D levels? My lymphatic system was slow. And that's why it takes, if you don't work on the lymphatic system, it takes forever to build up your vitamin D levels. But the lymphatic system also cleans your dog's toxins. It stops cancer. They have little nodes. I have a great picture of the lymphatic system in here, but it has little nodes in it, and all the toxins go through those little nodes. They're like little checkpoints, or like trucks get off the interstate and they have to be weighed, right? Think of those. Like all the toxins have to get off the interstate and get destroyed. And it's when our lymphatic system gets clogged and gets lazy because it doesn't have a pump. We have to work it. So if you're walking, move your arms, right? And your dog needs age-appropriate exercise, for sure. But when our lymphatic system isn't working and it's stagnant and it's clogged, it can't do its job to stop cancer. And it works directly with its CEO, which that is the liver. Okay, so the liver, digestive system, lymphatic system, kidneys are all like this, and lungs. They're like this. They all work together. And when one is waning, the other one has to take the load. And the lymphatic system takes a big load. So if you have a dog that has a hard time digesting anything fatty, your dog's lymphatic system is over here. Okay, that is a huge sign, and it's a preemptive cancer. Like, it's a big sign saying your dog is probably going to get cancer if you don't get their lymphatic system moving. So in my chapter on the lymphatic system, I talk about how do we get it moving. Age-appropriate exercise, acupuncture, massage. When you're watching Hulu or Netflix or whatever you watch on TV, massage your dog. And then maybe you can have your husband massage you, and you can do like a little massage train, and then switch, right? Or you can get those vibration plates, you can go to the gym, you can use that dreaded stair climber. However it is, you can walk in our beautiful forests. Best thing you can do for yourself is walk in our beautiful forests. They're super healthy for us. They give off chemicals that make our bodies work better. So, and we have the most beautiful forests in the PNW in the United States. They are absolutely gorgeous. Just so gorgeous. So, we have to get our lymphatic system moving in order to deal with antibiotics, right? We have to, in order to build up the microbiome again and get the liver online and help your nervous system and do all those things, you have to get your lymphatic system working. So in my book, the antibiotics recovery protocol, do the antibiotics recovery protocol if your dog has ever had antibiotics, and I don't care if it was 4 years ago. Antibiotics are a gift that keeps on giving. And there's one antibiotic, and I don't know if this is true, but I'm going to ask you. So the standard of care for diarrhea is what? Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So it's the same. So there's this lovely drug called flagyl, it's also called metronidazole, right? And it's the standard of care. That means that any dog that comes into your office with diarrhea, that is the drug you're going to recommend. And a lot of people, vets don't even care. I love my vet friends, but a lot of vet friends that aren't holistic, that's what they're going to give you. And the unfortunate part, and I talk about this in my book, the unfortunate part about that particular drug, right now as we speak, someone is getting it. Like that particular drug, it's a gift that keeps on giving for years. It turns on genetic inflammation. Like it changes the DNA in the gut to be inflammatory. Yes, it helps that day. But I'll see these dogs and they'll have IBD or IBS, they'll have leaky gut, they can't eat hardly any protein, and all I do is say, so when did they have flagell? What? How did you know that? I'm like, because their symptoms are flagell. I say flagell because the other one's hard, but like their symptoms equal that drug. And it can be 3 years, it can be 4 years if you do nothing. And that is crazy town. When one of the herbs that we are the bane of our existence here in the PNW is one of the best diarrheal medicines ever. David, you should start making tinctures and sell it. So blackberry leaf. Blackberry leaf. You can't move your arm without hitting a blackberry. Okay? Heather has a horrible relationship to blackberries. They try to kill her all the time. They don't touch me because I love them. But Heather, you need to change your relationship. Blackberry leaf. The blackberry leaves that are on the blackberries right now, you just pick them, dry them out on like something that has holes, and put them in a glass container. And when your dog has diarrhea, make a tea with them. Use a little squirter. I've got it in here, but a little squirter. Squirt it in their mouth. No diarrhea. Okay, works for 99% of diarrhea, and I made up that statistic. Okay? But it does. It does. Blackberry leaf, right? It keeps our basset hound from getting volcano poops because she has anal cancer, and she gets the kind of poop that she's right here, and it's on the wall. Yeah. Okay. If someone forgets to give her blackberry leaf, I get very angry. It is disgusting, and she doesn't like it either. Okay, those we have to clean her up. She's a basset hound. She's dignified, right? She's like, this is disgusting, and you allow this to happen. But she doesn't like her blackberry leaf either. But we have to give it to her. But simple blackberry leaf keeps her stool formed because it's astringent. It sucks the water out of things. Okay, it dries up damp. And it's here. And you don't have to be an herbalist to know how to make a blackberry leaf tea. You'd be like, oh God, I hope this doesn't hurt my dog. It's not going to hurt your dog. It's a plant. Nettles. They're another one that are everywhere. Nettles, right now, the nettles are tiny. They are so nutritious and so good for the kidneys. And if your dog has arthritis, they have kidney weakness. Most of them. 9 out of 10, in my opinion. And when you nourish the kidneys, the arthritis gets better. Their fear gets better. If you have a dog that's reactive on leash, most likely kidney weakness. Not something that shows up on blood work. I have lists in there. How do you know your dog has kidney weakness? Do they groan when they lay down? Kidneys. Are they fearful of everything in their mother? Do they hate car rides? Do they hate vet visits? Do they growl at strangers? Do they pee, submissive peeing? They have kidney weakness. When a dog comes to me and I help a dog that's afraid and has fear, I don't give them things to calm down the fear. I just support their kidneys. Okay? And so, and then I might give them something. Maybe a little CBD. But do you do CBD here? Is there CBD here?
Yeah,
Like regular CBD? What?
We're not allowed to do it.
That's not much. But antibiotics is so important for you to understand that if you give one round of antibiotics, you have to do something. And it's going to, guess what? This is just, don't kill the messenger. It literally will take your dog 6 months to a year to get over it, if not more. But there's things that you can do. So in the antibiotic, on page 157, is our antibiotics recovery regimen, right? And the goals for recovery, number one is support the nervous system. In order for your dog to heal and for you to heal, You have to support your nervous system. 3:30. I know we start. What did we start around 2?
We started at 2:15. 2:15, I think.
It was at 2:30. Okay. So just wanted to go on time so we have questions. Anyway, so number one, we have to support the nervous system, and this. Listen up, okay? It's the biggest, best thing we've done. Everyone says, Rita, and I said this yesterday, so it's going to sound like a repeat, but it is a repeat. But this is really important. Rita, what is the best herb for my dog? What is the best herb? What's going to give the best longevity? Tell me. It's not an herb. Get your stress in order. Care for yourself. Put yourself first, over your dog. You're over your dog. Most people put their dog first and treat themselves like crap. Okay? Put your oxygen mask on before you help your dog. The issue is if you're stressed, your dog is stressed. The scrolling stuff puts you in fight or flight. Okay? And what you need to know about fight or flight is that most of us, sometime during the day, multiple times a day, go into fight or flight. Okay? And we don't know how to handle our stress right now. We are stressed out humans. Okay? I mean, it's just gross. It's really gross how stressed out we are. However, the best thing that you can do for the longevity of your pet is get your together. Because the issue is that you smell like cortisol and adrenaline. And you know how dogs sniff each other's butts? Okay, they'd sniff yours too if you let them. But I'm telling you, and the reason why is because they want to know where you've been. They're always sniffing you. Like if you notice, they'll be like this by you. They'll be doing that. Okay, my pug does it all the time. Where you been? Okay, the issue is they're trying to see if you're safe. And I've got a great example from my own life on how this plays out. So, dogs want to be safe. They want to be fed, okay? They want to have full bellies, and they want to be safe. We are not safe, according to the smell. If you think you interact with your dogs like we interact with each other, we don't. Your dog interacts with you by smelling you all the time. And if you're in fight or flight, which many of us are, you smell like acetylcholine and you smell like cortisol. And your dog says, you're unsafe. Mama, what's going on? What are you doing? I'm going to follow you to the bathroom. I'm going to follow you to the bedroom. I'm going to follow you around. What's going on? You smell unsafe. Can I do something? Can I do something? And what they end up doing is taking on our stress. We're giving out a frequency of being unsafe, and we share our heart space with them. Our heart space goes out, I think, 6 feet, 6 or 8 feet, I can't remember. But there's this lovely institute called the Heart Map Institute. You can follow them online. But they do all this research on our heart frequencies. And see that puppy right there? Okay? So your puppy is sharing every emotion that you've got right now. Okay?
You baby.
And, but you're acting very calm, right? I don't know how you feel on the inside, but it looks like you're quite calm. And your puppy is quite calm, right? So that's very important to know, because if you start paying attention to where your dogs are most of the time, they're not that far from you. And when you have a bad day at work, they're having a bad day at work. And here's some advice. When you walk your dog, get off your phone. They know you're not being present. They absolutely know you're not being present. Today we were on a hike, and there was this cute little Yorkie. Okay, little Yorkie with his little vest on, right? Mom's like way over here. Mom's here, she's on her phone. Little Yorkie back here off leash, trying to keep up. I mean, she was trying so hard. She can't run that fast. She's like, Mom, and Mom's sitting here going like this. And I just want to go, lady, get off your phone. Your little dog is way back there. She was far enough away that a coyote could come out of anywhere, grab that dog, and be done. In fact, if they were in Newport Beach, California, she might not have a dog. It happens all the time there. And so pay attention. Your dog knows by the smell. When you're doing this, you're in fight or flight. You're in a low form of fight or flight, right? If you took your heart rate and tested your musculature, your muscles are going to be tenser because they're going to get ready to run, and your heart rate's going to be up. But what happens when we are in fight or flight? Your immune system is not available. Your immune system is not available, not like it is when you are resting, when you are present, when you're meditating, when you're walking, when you're putting your feet on the ground, when you're doing square breathing, whatever you want to, that's your like relaxation thing, when you're not being stimulated, okay? Another thing when you're in fight or flight is your digestive system is offline. Don't eat when you're stressed, worst thing ever, okay? Don't feed your dog when it's bouncing off the walls. It's not good. That's usually when you get the yeah.
What about caffeine? Say after you had coffee and you feel like your heart rate is a little high. Like,
Yeah.
Would that be part of like flight or fight?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. Absolutely. So if you have too much caffeine, and if you don't do well with caffeine, I don't do well with caffeine. You know, I wanted a green tea latte before I got here, and I know I'd be doing this. You know, I'm not going to do that to myself, right? I don't do well with stimulants, but some people do. Some people can handle them quite well. Usually, these are the stimulant people right here. If you're cool, stimulants. Over here, don't do that well with stimulants at all. You know, be present to your dog. Breathe and try to take care of yourself, because your liver doesn't work as well. Your digestive system doesn't work as well. Your lymphatic system is not paying attention to your body, right? And these are all things that we need. We need these things. And how you speak about your dog and how you speak around your dog is really important. Have you ever said, oh God, my dog's a mess? My dog's a mess. I had this woman in my audience, and she was telling me about her dog, and she must have said her dog was a mess like 8 times. And her dog was a mess, right? And I said, you know, you keep telling me that your dog's a mess. You know, you're giving off the frequency that your dog's a mess. Or my dog is so anxious. Usually that person is anxious as well, right? So we have to be careful with our nervous system. And it is the number one thing. And it is the number one thing on the antibiotic recovery protocol. The second one is the lymphatic system, which I've already discussed, right? And if I discuss it in nauseam in the book, so you'll love it. Number 3, this is very important. Does everyone know what an FMT transplant is? Well, it's when you take certain dogs' really good poop, really good microbiome, and you put it in another dog, and it helps reset their microbiome. But there's a couple things that you have to do. You don't have to do FMT. But do you know what a probiotic is? Right? Okay, probiotics aren't cheap. Now, probiotics don't come into my regimen for a while. Because what you have to do is you have to increase what's called glycocalyx and IgA. And stress, that we just talked about, and antibiotics decrease glycocalyx and IgA. And glycocalyx and IgA, let's just pretend this was the gut lining, okay? And we wanted probiotics to stick to it. That's the goal of a probiotic. We want it to stick to the gut lining, right? If your dog does not have good levels of glycocalyx and like IgA secretions, right? The probiotics can't stick, and neither can the FMT and FMTHE. Okay, and I get people like, well, I did probiotics, I did prebiotics, I did postbiotics, I did FMT pills, I did all of these things, and nothing worked. That's because you have to condition the gut in order to get it to work. And there's some lovely things that work to condition the gut. So, step 3 of the antibiotics recovery protocol is to increase glycocalyx and IgA. And there's a couple of ways to do that. So one of the ways is a little honorary probiotic. It's not really a probiotic, it's a yeast. It's called Aspergillosis. Aspergillosis increases IgA and glycocalyx. Colostrum. I saw somewhere, I think. Increases glycocalyx and IgA. Colostrum is warming. Okay, so it doesn't necessarily work for dogs that are really in need of an antibiotic recovery, that are warm and hot. Usually they're hot. Okay, so, but Aspergillosis is neutral. So you can give it to almost every dog. Some dogs are more sensitive, you have to start super slow, like that. And then you shove it in your dog's food. I tell you all about how to deal with a sensitive dog. You have to go slow. And then there is plantain. We can go on a trip right now, right outside this door, and I'll bet you any money we can find plantain. It's everywhere. You can get it as a tincture, you can use it as a tea, you can use it as a powder. I have all the dosages in here, but plantain is cooling. So if you can't use colostrum, you can use Aspergillosis and plantain. And plantain helps deal with glyphosate as well. So it's a lovely little thing about that. So you're going to build glycocalyx and IgA. Then you're going to add to step 4, you're going to add humic and fulvic acid. Humic and fulvic acid is awesome because, one, it helps repair the damage of glyphosate, which is everywhere, okay? And it also gives you really good trace mineral content from a healthy source. The kidneys cannot work without really good minerals. And it helps repair the gut. And it helps increase glycocalyx and IgA as well. So we're going to do humic and fulvic acid. And then step 5 is we're going to give prebiotics. And these are things that start feeding probiotics. But we don't want to give probiotics without giving prebiotics first. Then there's things called postbiotics. Those aren't in my book. But that's a different story. But you don't actually need them to repair the gut. So the thing is we want to feed the gut first, and then we're going to add probiotics. And I tell you exactly what to do and everything to do it. It's really important to heal the gut because the gut is everything. And if your dog's liver isn't healthy, they're not going to have a healthy gut. That's why everything's connected. And people say, oh, my dog can't have very many proteins. He's got allergies. Allergies is liver. Allergies are liver problems. If you nourish the liver, the allergies will go away. The gut will get better. But we got to have enough bacteria in the gut. Commensal bacteria, which is good bacteria. We have to have enough good bacteria in the gut. And so, healing, antibiotics, when dogs get antibiotics, healing that is so important. And if you give vaccines, that's the other thing we forget that we do to our dog. And we don't have time for that and you'll fall asleep. But there's a vaccine recovery protocol in here. It helps you with your dog before vaccines and after vaccines. Because if you're going to give your dog a vaccine, another thing, if I put everything that is in a vaccine now, in this day and age, on this table, you would run the other way. You would just be like, what? I ain't giving that to my dog. I ain't giving that to myself. So all that stuff goes in the body, but we need to help the liver and the kidneys get rid of it, including heavy metals and all of the good stuff that's in our vaccines now. Foreign proteins. Lots of foreign proteins that don't need to be in there. And your liver can deal with it all, but it needs help. So I have a vaccine pre- and post-recovery protocol too. Questions? Yeah.
How about for medications that are not like antibiotics or vaccines, but like a dog just went through surgery like 3 months ago just to as she was having some bumps and bumps, and one of them is growing pretty fast, and then we just took them out and went for testing, thank goodness none of them is cancerous. Like they're it doesn't seem to be fatty to her as well. They're just like skin lesions.
Liver.
So, and then so it's been like 3 months. Like she's healthy otherwise, but definitely more of a cool dog. And just the last 3 months, I find that whenever she eats raw. But then after the surgery, every time I feed her raw meaty bones, she doesn't seem to digest well, and she has this like reverse sneezing, and then she'll vomit.
Okay, so her enzyme levels are low. So surgery, I have a pre and post surgery protocol in here. Whenever you're cutting into your dog, whether it's removing lumps and bumps or whatever, it involves anesthesia and it involves cutting into your dog, right? So you're cutting tissue. You're leaving an emptiness, right? The body has to fix it. The body always trying to fix it, right? You get scar tissue, right? That's your body's way of fixing it. It doesn't always work out great. So, but surgery really puts a lot of pressure and on the immune system, on the liver because of the anesthesia, right? And on the enzymes in the gut. So you would want to go in here and do the post-surgery recovery protocol and ask if there was antibiotics involved in the surgery. Okay? Oral antibiotics are worse than injectable or IV antibiotics. They're still going to do bad things, right? Good things and bad things. But ask if there was antibiotics involved, and I would do the post-surgery and the antibiotic recovery protocol. But the lumps and bumps are from liver weakness and lymphatics. So the thing is to understand is a healthy liver, your dog can't get cancer. Okay? Lumps and bumps are a red flag that the lymphatics in the liver are not working like they should. You know, and stress and fight or flight and all that stuff brings down enzymes. So here's another thing. You know, surgery is pretty commonplace, right? But not to your dog, right? So, like, we bring our dogs home, and again, we focus on the incision. But that is like an earthquake in your dog's body. Surgery is hard. I don't know if you guys have ever had surgery, but you feel like you've been hit by a truck, right? You wake up and you're like, oh my God. I mean, you're happy, right, that you've woken up and you're, whatever, maybe the surgery was successful. I've had surgery a couple times, but you have to repair the body. You have to help the body repair itself, not just focus on the incision. And it, literally, again, after surgery, 3 to 6 months of paying attention and helping your dog recover, helping their nervous system recover. That's a huge get, you know. But the nervous system dictates how much digestive enzymes are in the gut, along with the liver and the lymphatics. Not so much the lymphatics, but it's a part of the cleansing process. And the lymphatics is part of that, getting that anesthesia out of the body, along with the liver and the kidneys. Yeah, it's all about organ health, and that's what my book is about. But it also, and I'm almost done here, in the back, I have about 60 herbs. And when you, like, there's like a key to these are called monographs, okay? And they're like little resumes of a herb, a resume. And when you go, the second thing will be energetics. It'll tell you, is it warm, is it dry, what is it? Of the herbs that I talk about in the book. And in the back of the book, there's a list of almost every herb I could think of. And like herbs that aren't in the book, but you might come across the herb in a formula. You're like, is that warm or is that dry? I don't know what that is. It'll be in the book. But on the little monograph, burdock root, energetics. It says lightly cool and damp, drying long term. Okay? It adds moisture short term, but if you have your dog on it for like 4 to 6 months, it's gonna dry because it helps remove fluid. And it has these things called cofactors, and cofactors are all the things that burdock root is good for. So there are conditions and symptoms, and when you look at the cofactors, you're going to assess: did my dog ever have that in the past or right now. And you just give yourself a little check. So if you're comparing two herbs, like burdock root and artichoke, they're both cooling. I don't know which one to use, Rita. You'd go through the cofactors, past and present. You'd be like, okay, my dog had that, 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 you know, and burdock root has 10 checks and artichoke has 3. Well, then you're going to use burdock root. And that's the easiest way, and I tell you that in the book, to figure out. Because so, like, the antibiotics recovery protocol, I'm going to give you like 10 herbs to choose from that are warming. You're going to go and look up a few of those herbs, see which ones have the most checks, and you're going to use 1 or 2 for that step. For the lymphatics, I use calendula and cleavers. Those are the ones I use the most. Calendula for cool dogs and cleavers for warm dogs. They're very easy. And they're easy to source and they're easy to grow, and cleavers are the bane of a lot of people's existence because they're like a sticky vine, but they're excellent at cleaning out the lymphatic system. And then the liver herbs, same thing. You're going to see which, we got to find the warming liver herb, and then which warming between, the ones I give you. And that's the way you just look at the cofactors. The more cofactors, the more it's going to rock your dog's world. And there's some in herbs, like there's a lot of information in the herbs, like I talk about. Here's burdock root in the antibiotics recovery. If I mention it in the beginning, it's going to be back here with more information. And gastrointestinal system, kidneys, liver, lymphatics. I tell you how burdock root works for all those symptoms. So there's a lot of information back there if you're a nerd like me and want to know more. But if you don't want to get crazy, just pay attention to the cofactor. And if you have kitties, it says safe for cats or not. And then in the dosing section back here, it tells you how to dose a cat. It's an extra small dog or a small dog. Most cats aren't over 25 pounds. So, we hope. But yeah, so it's actually, the herb part is very, very easy to use. And there's so much in here. It'll totally change how you interact with your dog. And also, it gets to the why. Everything's a symptom. And it's like, I want my dog to be well. I actually want to cure this problem. And patience is your biggest enemy. These are not pharmaceuticals. They don't work like that. They work between 3 and 12 weeks. If you're not getting better at 12 weeks, if things have to be getting better, right? You need to see improvement. If not, you've got the wrong herb or the wrong dosage. And I help coach you on that in here as well. So, any other questions? Any questions? Yeah.
I was just curious about any long-term damage from anesthetic. I had a dog go in for a neuter almost a year and a half ago. On the way home, he was like swallowing really heavy. I called the vet back and they said it's just really dry where the tube was, don't worry about it. He didn't want to eat for about 10 days, 14 days. Started losing a bit of weight. I said, when he's hungry, he'll eat. It's been about a year and a half and he is very fussy about eating after that. He will need to eat grass before he eats his food. And if he can't get at grass, he will eat blankets, curtains, and it almost like he has like an acid reflux. So I have to put him in a crate.
Yeah, it sounds like he's trying to cool his stomach off. So he's probably got stomach heat, and also, if you do nothing for your dog after surgery, if you're not actively doing something, it's organ problems. Like it's liver and lymphatics, I guarantee it.
Yeah.
And remember, if the liver isn't working well and the lymphatics are stagnant, the digestive system is going to be not working well.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's just not going to work very well.
Yeah.
So, were there antibiotics involved?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I would do the antibiotics recovery protocol.
Okay.
Right? Notice you didn't tell me about the antibiotics right away, because they're normalized, right?
Yeah,
so
it's assumed,
just
Yeah.
of course you're thinking about it. That's the thing. Like you would do the antibiotics recovery protocol, which is going to help the liver, the kidney, the lymphatics. One of the best pages in my book is page 137, and that's creating a healing protocol for chronic conditions.
Okay.
And it's almost the same as, it's not the same, but any condition can be helped with this.
Okay.
And it's one, nervous system. 2, lymphatics. 3, liver. 4, digestive system. 5, deal with the actual problem. Because by the time you get down to 5, you're going to be on this protocol for 2 months, and organ health is going to be improved. So, yeah, if you did nothing, then you might have that same dog for years. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If they were different after surgery, then it happened because of the surgery. And like I said, it's a hit. So you could do the antibiotic recovery protocol, and then if you needed more help, you could do the post-surgery recovery, even though it's been a while.
Yeah.
You know, because it's nutrition. These organs need nutrition, and deal with your dog energetically. Yeah. Yeah.
I have one more question, because I know you have this book that's the herbal dogs, and I know you have different podcasts with Dr. Karen Becker specifically about UTIs and bladders. Would that be in this book, or it's completely separate?
Could what be?
About bladder stones and crystals and.
Yeah, it's in the book.
It's in this
under
book,
the
so
urinary
this book
system.
would have everything.
Yeah. Just remember, crystals and stones they happen over here. Okay, so your dog needs rehabilitation as far as that, and those things will go away. Yeah, and there's a bladder stone formula in here
Oh, that's perfect.
that
That's
you
what
can make yourself. And like I said, they wouldn't let me put it in the book, but this book has a website. It's just a resource website, and it tells you where to source things in Canada.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned something about picky eaters.
Yeah.
So
That's in the book for sure.
yeah. What about herbs too? How could you provide the dog the herbs and the powders that they don't like to eat, and then you syringe them into the mouth?
Yes. And I have that on there on how to do it, because there's a certain way to give anything via syringe. And so, picky eater is a symptom. You know, it's a symptom. So when you clear that up, that goes away. However, sometimes you have to deal with it. Like you have to deal with the symptom. So there's an appetite section in here. Because we all deal with that. You know? Yeah.
I have a question about the CBD oil.
Yeah.
So I've tried that on my dogs, and it doesn't really calm my dogs, but give them a confident boost almost. They become a little bit more playful. I wonder if different brand of the CBD will have a different effect,
Yes,
or they're all
absolutely.
the same.
So CBD, cannabis, it comes from cannabis sativa, right? And cannabis sativa is a plant. It's just a plant that we haven't been allowed to play with for a very long time. Okay? And now they decided, okay, what's the best way to give animals and people this plant? An infused oil. Okay? It's extracted, sometimes use CO2 extraction, sometimes there's normal, depends. Okay? You always want your cannabis to be organic. Never use inorganic hemp. You know, like I went to a fancy drink store today, and I saw that they were using hemp and not organic hemp. Yeah, I'm not drinking that. Because hemp is what you call a super accumulator. It sucks toxins out of the soil. Like Chernobyl, when that happened over there, they scattered, they used hemp. They're using hemp to clean radiation out of the soil. Okay, so any type of super accumulator, you want to make sure it's organic. Okay, organically grown. That's number one. But every different company is going to have a different spectrum in their CBD. Okay, and cannabis can be affected by the wind, by how much sun it gets, how much rain it gets, what side of the hill it was grown on, right? It's a plant, and a lot of people don't see it as a plant. It's just CBD. But yes, so if you don't have a good experience with one company, make sure it's organic, because some of them aren't. But if you don't have an experience with one company, go to a different company and try it out.
Does it change the property of cold, hot, or that they would be all the same?
CBD is slightly warming.
Okay. So if it is like
Most
different-
dogs do. It's the super hot dogs that don't. Some of them don't do well with it. But I've had pretty good luck with like even slightly hot dogs. Okay, but I'll give it with something cooling. Like I'll put it in coconut oil. Coconut oil is nice and like it's more neutral to cooling. So I'll get a CBD that's made with MCT oil instead of like olive oil, because olive oil is a little on the warming side. Yeah.
How can you tell what temperature the dog is?
By paying attention to how they deal with heat. Like, just go home. I mean, I have it in chapter 3, but like a list of things. But and your dog doesn't have to have all those things, but it is really how they deal with heat. The damp and the dry are much easier, but like how they and a lot of dogs are damp. But how they deal with heat? Are they laying on a cool tile floor? Are they sitting in front of the wood stove for a long period of time? Your dog is not warm. You know, are they under the covers? You know, do they love to cuddle and do they love clothes? You know, yeah, put on my little jacket. You know, most likely they're not warm. Just start paying attention. You'll see it. You'll see it. And it's starting to get sunny. It's starting to get sunny, right? And just see how your dog likes it outside. You know, are they sitting in the sun? Are they in the house with that single ray of sunshine coming in? You know, a warm dog can do that too. But if we compared them, that cool dog's going to sit in that ray of sunshine for hours, where this guy might sit in it for a half an hour. Yeah.
So if I think I have a neutral dog, does that mean I can just feel out?
So you might have a healthy dog that is either going to lean a little warm or a little cold. Cool. They're like right here. They have no physical problems and they're doing just great. They're either warm or cool. They might be very energetically flexible, so they might be like right here. But as you pay attention more and know what to pay attention, like how to pay attention,
Read the book.
they're gonna go leaning this way or they're gonna lean this way. It's like turkey. Turkey leans a little more, a little more. Yeah, yeah.
So, aside from, you know, telling the difference of whether your dog is a cool or a warm dog, how do you tell whether they're dry or damp?
There's lists in the book. Yeah, I have to talk for you. But like if they have any like skin pegs or sebaceous cysts, or if their eyes are leaking all the time, they've got a runny nose, they've got yeast, verifiable yeast, like your vet says they have yeast, right? They're damp. Lipomas, damp. So, and more dogs are damp than dry. But like we have a dry dog. Heather has been reading my book. It's my partner, Heather. Has been reading my book, which is so cute. And hey, I think Birdie's dry. Yeah, she is. Let's get to it. You know, yeah. You know, she has no herbal experience. She knows how to garble and wildcraft, right? She knows how to do that, but she doesn't have any like formal herbal experience at all. And so it's fun to watch her read the book and see. You know, we have a lot of dogs and we have 2 cats, and you know, she's starting to see our dogs according to their energetics. You know, like Weezy's damp. You know, Weezy gets yeast on her skin. She gets crappy ears, and she realizes that both Birdie and Weezy have kidney weakness. So you know, we got to step to it. It's a carpenter's job. You know, I don't have time. Sorry. But yeah, no, really. There's a whole bunch of lists to help you figure that out. Any other questions? Anything? Going once? Going twice? Well, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it. I can turn that thing off now.
Bye, everyone.